Good evening, good afternoon. Welcome everyone to our Facebook Live session. It is 22nd of July, year 2020, and I have a couple of guests with me, and our incredible moderator, Eileen, is with us. Louise Dunaway is with us. She is an author, and hello, Louise. And
Hello.
Kelly is our Qigong teacher, is here, so to answer questions, and we shall get started. So, one of the things that I wanted to talk about, Louise and Kelly.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm trying to bring it up. This weekend, um, I don't know how many of you have watched the video that I have shared on death and dying. So when we attended the 2019 course for conscious manifestation, is this participant that had asked Eckhart a question that she had stage 4 cancer and she was tired of it. She didn't know what to do, how to continue, whether she should continue with more treatment or should she just let it go and let nature take its course. Yumi, the participant, passed away in May of 2020. This
Mm.
weekend, so a lot of a few of the people that come to the group meditation and are part of the Facebook group are also the conscious manifestation course participants. Yindra is one, Ryan is one. Ryan's taken School of Awakening. I think Louise, you've taken School of Awakening, right?
Yes.
Sujata
Mm.
is School of Awakening student as well. And then Dante is a conscious manifestation course. So we had a very beautiful experience this weekend. Her husband held a celebration of life event on Zoom for the conscious
Mm.
manifestation participants. Like we were so close to her just out of that one question, right? That every so many weeks, one of the participants would go, how's Yumi doing? How's Yumi doing? How's Yumi doing? Right? And everybody would go, yeah, we want to know how she's doing and all that. So during the celebration of life event, one thing that I wanted to explain to everyone, and this is something that I would love for people to come to the group meditation because there are so many important life skills that we discuss of how to be, right? So, one of the things that in the Sunday, July 12th group meditation we had discussed is Eckhart's video on compassion. What is true compassion? So one thing that I noticed is there was not too much of crying or anything of that sort. There was truly empathy handed over to her husband, right? Like everybody was in presence. Ryan was in presence. Dante was in presence, right? So holding presence power, how much healing you can bring to the other, right? So true compassion is not about like start crying and now you're memorizing your suffering and you're just crying along with the other person and making them more miserable, right? True compassion is the strength that you give because you are so much in presence that you're able to actually be like see the presence of the other, not see their suffering, not see their sadness of losing a loved one, right? So that was one, and that's something we discussed on that Sunday a couple of weeks ago. We discussed this. I'm going to discuss it again because some people miss that session, right? It's a beautiful video of Eckhart on the website on true compassion because he discusses this. What is there needs to be wisdom along with compassion, and what true compassion is. The other thing that so he was her husband was explaining her life to us, and then he was saying that So this was November, December timeframe, 2019, that we had the conscious manifestation course. He said she had just learned about Eckhart a few months before, right? So Eckhart in this videos talks about, um, and after he said this is what I told him, that the universe is always working in our favor, even if he has stage 4 cancer. So what he said was, one, Eckhart liberated her through the answer he gave in that video, right? Because he says this illness is a blessing to you. It is teaching you to be in presence minute to minute, minute. Then he said, in Canada, there is medically assisted death
Yep.
is legal in Canada, right?
Depending on
So,
who you are.
okay. So the same thing in the US, right? Like if you're in, I think Colorado has, I know
I didn't
Northwest,
know that.
somewhere, Portland, I think you can do, Oregon, people move to different states and become residents of that state to have that medically assisted death. So she met a doctor right after that question. She met a doctor where the doctor gave her that freedom. And her question to Eckhart was exactly that, that I don't want to suffer anymore. I'm tired of 21 years. Like I have suffered for 21 years. I don't want that physical pain anymore, right? So how beautiful is that, that even for somebody that is about to pass away, the universe worked in her favor.
Wow.
I was so humbled. That's what I told her husband. Look at it. The universe worked in her. You know, Byron Katie, or I don't know who says it. It's a quote. The universe is, like Eckhart says, life is always giving us experiences that are most important for the evolution of our consciousness,
Yep.
right? Exactly that. That if he wouldn't have liberated her, so he kind of disengaged her from her body, like identification with her body, right? That die before you die kind of thing. And then this doctor said, okay, you can have medically, if push come to shove, you can make that choice, right? Have medically assisted death. And she passed away of natural causes because of her disease state, but she didn't have to use it. But that gave her freedom, right? That kind of like released her from that. So I want y'all to talk about the universe is always working in our favor. I wanted everyone to have that knowing that when you are in your presence, the universe, listen to that feeling tone of your inner being. Be in the listening mode, because the universe is always moving you in the right direction, and trust it. Trust implicitly this feeling tone. Where is your inner being taking you? Go ahead. Kelly, you go first, and then Luis can speak. Thank you.
Thanks, Poonam. Um, the universe always works in mysterious, sometimes very straightforward ways. That's a beautiful story about Yumi. The my personal experience, just sort of like day to day living. I spent a lot of my adult life living paycheck to paycheck, and it's been um, a really great gift because it has given me an opportunity to observe my monkey mind and my fear-based programming try and constantly hijack me into being in anxiety, being in fear, and being in that program of scarcity and lack. However, my experience has been that the universe has always provided me the right opportunity at the right time for me to see how to make everything fit, for things to fit even when I wasn't aware I was looking for them. There are a lot of instances where, just from my martial arts experience and training, how I've achieved the depth of training that I have in a very unique fashion that is considered very traditional in China without having to travel to China. where I've actually been provided with people who know things and been able to learn from people in like the middle of Canada and in the prairies of all places. For myself, my understanding of compassion, there are two types of compassion. Poonam, you're talking about this, how you know, one type of compassion is where you're crying with the other person and you're adding to the weight of their pain. And that's one type of compassion. And for me, the other type of compassion that I've always strived for and worked very hard to understand and embody is the space of, as you're mentioning, Poonam, the compassion with wisdom, or I like to refer it as just the empathy of love, where you are actually from or holding space from a space of love and acceptance and gratitude for the learning experience of being able to witness someone else's strength, their growth, their journey, whether or not it is a, you know, externally it seems as a very, you know, positive experience, or is more of a challenging experience to someone with stage 4 cancer, which is a very, very challenging experience. And I've always looked at the experience of sharing or witnessing that kind of space that a person is holding for themselves in terms of understanding, going through a terrible amount of pain, and then suddenly having the universe open up all these options where they shift the paradigm, they shift the reality that they were attached to, and they step into a new space that actually gives them the release that they were wanting in their heart. Not something that is based on the external world, but that is actually about the lesson that they are working on giving to themselves in their heart. And I've known people with stage 4 cancer. I've known people who have recovered. I've known people who have passed on. And, you know, each time, you know, recently, last year, my best friend's mother passed away. And I hadn't seen him in, you know, this is one of these people in my life where it doesn't matter how much time passes. We've known each other for almost 30 years. And we'll meet up and it'll be like no time has passed. The love is so strong between the two of us. We're, you know, like family and brothers that just, you know, do this thing where we, you know, spend a couple years apart, come together. And it was a real blessing being able to share space with him while he was mourning and grieving, and at the gravesite and at the wake afterwards. And we didn't really talk much. And this is gonna make me sort of like get all teary-eyed here and stuff, because it was such a beautiful experience. Because he told me afterwards that his exact words were, "Dude, I felt you as soon as we got to the graveyard. I felt you as soon as we pulled up. I knew you were there. I knew that we didn't have to say anything. I knew that you understood." And I was just, yeah, I could feel you too. It was one of those beautiful moments of love and compassion. You know, we've had a lot of growing pains, but we've gotten to this space of profound love and compassion and support and acceptance of each other's journey, that it was just one of those things. During the wake, he and I barely said 2 words, but he would look over at me and he'd smile, and we just sort of like nod at each other. And you know, when I was getting up to leave, we, you know, gave each other a hug, and he said the same thing. It was just like, you know, it's amazing having you here. That's, you know, you helped me get through the day, because I know how strong your heart is, and I know how much we've been together, and I knew that if you were here, that would be the support that I needed to get through the day. And I was just like, oh, I was like, you know, it was the love and compassion that we've built, that we work towards having consciously as men together, being able to talk about things, being able to have conscious, emotionally present conversations with each other. Is not an easy thing, not an easy space to get to, especially when there are two minds that aren't always, you know, in the same space, or two hearts that I got completely different experiences. But it was one of those moments where I felt how much it fit me being there, how much it fit not needing to say anything to him, and how much me just loving him in his journey in that moment was exactly what he needed, and that we didn't need any big explanations or any big dialogue between the two of us, but that was the space. And that's a very personal experience of that compassion with wisdom, that loving empathy.
Thank you, Kelly. That was beautiful. That's so incredible, right? Like, no speaking is needed, and two people know that the other one pulled up. Louise, you have something to say about?
Yeah, I think it's a lot about just having the faith. Well, first of all, I want to say
Thank you.
that I think the more we go deeper and deeper, the less the exterior things affect us. And so that's what I've noticed in my own life, is that um like if I would say, I'm just going to make an example, like if I had applied for a job and I really, really wanted it, and then I didn't get it, like I would just go over in my mind about it, like I wonder if I said something wrong, or blah blah blah. And now it's more like just trusting that even if it seems bad or not what you want or not what you expected, is just trusting that. I think the more and more that I go deep, the more and more I trust that whatever is happening on the exterior is supposed to happen the way it's supposed to. And so instead of trying to maneuver or control or repeat things over and over in my head, I'm able to like move through it a lot easier.
Thank you, Louise. There's a question, I think. Sujata asks, what is the difference between compassion and empathy? And hello, good evening, Sujata.
Mhm.
What is the difference between compassion and empathy? To me, it would be exactly how we started the video with, right? Empathy would be more like using our presence power to connect with them at their level of presence, right? And then bringing healing to the other through that connection, like what Kelly was saying, right? No words are needed. It's just at the metaphysical, telepathic level, that you're just sending them that healing energy, that I know you're sad, right? And this is like a very difficult time. Uh, that I would say is empathy, that you are actually trying to bring healing into it. And compassion is just loving kindness. Like, compassion is, uh, you see a person that's maybe hungry, a homeless person, and you give them some food or you give them some money. That's just loving kindness to you. You don't see a different person. But empathy is more the healing component of compassion, right?
I'd agree with
That's what
that.
I feel.
Yes,
So,
I agreed.
y'all have anything more to add to it?
I could say a few words.
Go ahead, Kelly.
I really like what you said, Poonam. I completely agree with you. One of the things that I've discovered about myself, my own personal practice, is that sometimes compassion became habitual as an automatic response, and I wasn't fully present in the space of sharing or supporting someone. And again, yeah, my experience with my friend Sean, there was profound love in that moment for him, and his whole family and everything that everybody was going through. And to me, that's the huge difference of being very conscious of holding that space, holding an intention of offering as much love and kindness and acceptance and allowance for anything to come to the surface, any grief, any anger, or any type of expression, and being very, very present and being very, very conscious of my own emotional state so that I could consciously be present and support with love my friend Sean.
Thank you. Louise, you wanted to say something?
No, I think you described it very well.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I'm trying to look for questions. No more questions yet. So I'll bring up what Eckhart actually, the first question that was asked on Monday, which is just this couple of days ago, right? And this has happened a couple of times. Somebody even attended the group meditation and they said, oh, I attended 35 minutes or 45 minutes of your meditation and nothing happened or didn't like it, or that's the thing. And the person, I don't exactly remember the phrase or the verbiage of the question, but it was more like, when people get into the seeking mode. And this is something that even in School of Awakening, he talks about in module 2, what's happening to me, where seeking mode is the greatest obstacle. Like we are looking for, oh, I don't know, I don't think I am in presence yet. So I'm going to seek, right?
Yep.
Where's the next book and where's the next teacher? And then I'm watching 20 teachers. I'm going from Dr. Deepak Chopra to Dr. Wayne Dyer to Louise L. Hay to how many of our teachers, and the seeking has not stopped. So Eckhart was saying, so I want y'all to speak about the fact that where he says you have to know how to disidentify yourself from the mind, the gap, create the gap, right? Because in the gap is where stillness or where presence arises, right? If you're like this, like thought after thought after thought after thought after thought after thought, there is no gap. And so we get into this, each thought saying, oh, I can be present. There's no technique in this world that can ever teach me how to be present. Somebody posted, right, Eileen, something like, somebody teach me how to be awakened this very moment. I want to be awakened this very moment. Show me how. And if anybody gave her suggestions, right, use breath work, use this thing, she would go, no, none of that works. I've tried meditation, I've tried breath work, I've tried everything. So if y'all want to speak about it, and then maybe something will come to me. But that question even came to Eckhart, that people get into the seeking mode, and he spoke for 45 minutes on it. His answers are always so long, right? I don't know if y'all watched the Russell Brand interview. He
Yeah.
Russell Brand was like his eyes was getting googly eyed. He asked one question, and there's no period in Eckhart's. He's so used to giving 2.5-hour talk. It's just flow. Okay, Louise, you go first, and then Kelly can speak. Seeking mode. Let's talk about seeking mode. And I can't ever be awakened this very moment. Or I want to be awakened this very moment, and show me how. Thank you.
Right. And I think a lot of people are that way. I speak to people, or I'll invite them to the group meditation, and they're like, oh, I can't sit still that long. Or for 30 minutes, It's like, wow, you're asking a lot of me. And or I can't quiet my mind, or so I hear that a lot. And I think it's because that, like you said, that seeking thing, or we feel like um I like we want to get there, we want to be awakened now. And we'll never really get there because we're always going deeper and deeper and deeper. And you learn as you go. And I think people just want instant results. And especially, I think, even with like having the internet, like you want to find out something, you just go to Google, you find out in a minute. And so that's kind of how we're conditioned to have everything right now. And so we miss the whole point of everything because we just want, we feel we're maybe entitled or we need to have it now. But there's never any like perfection to meditating. And there's sometimes where your mind is very active, and that's okay. I think people want everything to be perfect, like to be able to sit down, meditate, their mind clear, get it done with, and go on to the next thing, to, like you were saying earlier, about the next teacher, the next book. And I feel that's how most of the world is conditioned, is to just want everything now and not trusting the process. There's, a process as you go. At first, when I was first learning to be silent, silence the mind and quiet, 1 minute was a lot. And then it just increases and increases as you start. It's like building a muscle, you are able then to do more heavy lifting or what have you when you have been working out more. And I think people miss that and think like that it's just going to happen. They're going to have results immediately. And if they don't, then they don't like it or they don't want to do it. But I also feel it's kind of like how I've done yoga. I had done yoga for years and years. And I remember, people always want to get to that perfect place. And it's wherever you're at is the perfect place.
Beautiful.
Well said.
Wherever you are at is the perfect place. Go ahead, Kelly. You were saying something? Thank you.
Well, the seeking mind is an ego space. The ego wants answers. It wants control. The monkey mind wants to establish safe parameters to experience information, and it will jump on any new experience. And as Poonam, Louise, as you both said, we live in a society, in the modern world, where we've been conditioned to not trust the process, to not give ourselves time, to not give ourselves space to feel an experience, but to go from one to one to one to one, to another, to another book, teacher, video, what have you. We live in a world where we've been conditioned to not pay attention, to not listen, and especially to not feel what's going on inside of our bodies, and not feel the control that our monkey mind and our programming actually want to have over our reality, and how it constantly hijacks us. I used to collect books. I've been in that space where I needed this book, that book, I needed to read it this day, that day, and have everything in sequence and meditate and do all these things and get all this information and get grind through as much stuff as possible. And then I, realized, like in Chinese martial arts, there's a saying, you're either a scholar or a boxer. You're either someone who researches and reads books, or you're someone who actually understands the process and how to apply it and how to do it. And it was about the third book that I'd come across, or that I was reading, that mentioned this whole concept, you're either a scholar or a boxer, that I went, oh, that I realized what I was doing with all the books. And I went, right.
You're a
Okay.
scholar.
And I put all my books away. And I just started training and giving myself the actual experiences of the stuff that I've been reading about instead of reading it anymore. And it was really, really hard because the entire time, the first couple of years that I was learning the art that I teach now, the Bagua, I wanted to go back to my books. I wanted to pull something out. I wanted to research. I wanted to do this and that. And my teacher, Mark, beautiful man, was just like, just train, just do it. You'll learn it, you'll feel it, and then you'll understand it. And I was like, yeah, but that's not the answer I want. So my ego was like, I don't like that answer. I'm gonna like fight that and not accept it. And this is the thing that I find with a lot of people who have come into my classes, and I've had hundreds of people come into my classes where I can tell I've suddenly given them an answer that they do not like. Where I literally go, well, you just got to practice. You got to learn how to feel it in your body, and I never see them again. I've gotten so used to that moment happening that I can tell. It's just like, oh, there we go. You know, I can just feel them going, okay, you know, they look at the clock, and I can literally feel them thinking how much time of this torture is left, you know? And it's a pattern. It's a pattern that I've experienced myself personally. And I've pushed through and learned how to sit. Louise, I loved your experience, your sharing of your experience of learning how to meditate. It was the same thing for me. It's like I used to be able to sit for 3 hours and meditate, but to get there, even the first 5 minutes, just getting to the first 5 minutes, oh my God, that was like the most painful thing ever. And then it's like, oh, I did 5 minutes. It's like, wow, I've done something.
And I also think that people do think that meditation is doing. And so when we're doing, we want results.
Yes, exactly. It's in a result-oriented mindset of like, we're going to do this, we're going to have this happen. And then they sit and they learn how to breathe. They teach themselves how to breathe, and then nothing happens according to the way their ego has told them it should happen. Been there so many times. Yep.
He said that exact thing, Louise. He said we get attached to the fruit of our action. We want an outcome, and we get attached to, and that keeps us in the seeking mode. Eileen wanted to say something. Thank you, Kelly.
Yes, thank you. I was laughing because something Kelly said that has actually happened to me over the last few weeks. So while I was starting my journey, I collected like books. I collected books on various spiritual teachings. And then now that I have some time and I'm trying to get in and actually read things, I'm reading and I'm like, why am I reading this? And I keep asking myself, I'm like, wait, I already know this, or I already understand this, or like, this doesn't make sense. And so each one, I'm like, no, let me go read another one. I'm like, start another one. And I'm like, wait, why am I reading this? And then like, I try a couple chapters and I'm like, okay, I can't read this. So all these books, I have this whole like pile, and I'm like, I don't really want to read any of these because I'm like, that's not where I am anymore. And I don't need that. And so when he was saying that, I'm like, this is exactly what I'm going through right now. And I was so excited to be able to have time to read through it all. And now I'm like,
Don't need it.
No.
Nice.
We have a few questions, I think. Lori says, recently I lost a beloved pet. And although I practiced staying present, found myself getting swept up in a stream of emotions for days. Later, I righted myself and came back to the present moment. Any suggestions on how to remain balanced and not get caught up when experiencing loss? I'd like to regain my equilibrium quicker the next time I experience loss. Do you want to speak on it first, and then I can say something? You want me to go?
Which one of us are you talking to?
Kelly and Louise.
Yeah, sure. That. I knew you were talking to like one of us, but I was just like, hold on. Just wanted to clarify.
We're having fun, Kelly. This is a fun day. Okay.
Yes.
This is a lot of fun. I really appreciate this opportunity and being able to share this kind of space with you all.
We're grateful for your presence,
Same
for all of you.
here. Yes, I'm grateful.
Everyone out there as well. We're grateful for them. Without the question,
Yes.
there is no interaction. So
Yeah.
there's no fun without
True.
the interaction. So go ahead, Kelly. Sorry.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Loss is a wonderful gift. In my experience, I grew up with all four of my grandparents, very, very close to my grandparents. I spent a lot of time with them growing up. And when they all passed on, it was really, really, really hard. You know, I'd just lose my stuff for like days because there was such a profound emotional bond, and I'm trying not to like lose it right now because like I love my grandparents so much. There's such an incredible support and loving kindness in my life for all their faults and their human aspects. Their hearts were absolutely beautiful, and they loved me profoundly. So when they all passed, it was really, really hard to come to terms with the amount of grief that I felt. And what I experienced as each of them passed, I began to get used to that space of grief, and I got more used to, more able to let the grief move through me instead of trying to hold on to the memory of who they were. To me, the experience showed me how to let myself feel that, you know, that depth of grief without being overwhelmed. And the experience of loss is like, again, if anyone wants a really good recommendation of a book on the death and dying process, because it's exactly what the ego goes through, is a woman by the name of Kubler-Ross, who wrote on death and dying, that I read in university. Beautiful book on the whole process of grieving and loss and all that. A wonderful resource in my life. I read it a few times. One of the things that I've learned from my own practice, my own experiences of loss, either personal or helping others through it, is that holding space, the practice of holding space and being present becomes easier over time. It's that repetition of the discipline. It's the strengthening of the discipline, and having a deep emotional event, such as the loss of a loved one, of a family member, be they two-legged or four-legged and furry or you know, with feathers. It's one of those great gifts in life. I've found, you know, in hindsight, you know, in the moment, feeling the loss, feeling that emotional content come to the surface has never been easy, never, ever easy. But there's a lot of information in those moments. There's a lot of amazing nuggets of gold of letting yourself feel, but also feeling how strong I am to let myself feel. And for me, since my grandparents have passed, and that was about 20 years ago, I've really taken those experiences to heart, and the growth I had as a result in those, and they all passed in a relatively short period of time together. All those compounded experiences, and sometimes I had to go back and revisit the grieving process because I had not fully accepted the gift of the grief. I'll put it that way, in terms of, you know, where something would come up and I would get triggered. I would get into a space of missing one of my grandparents, and I would grieve a little bit more, and I'd let myself feel a little bit more depth of the gratitude for the presence of this person in my life. And, you know, I grew up with pets. I had, you know, a beautiful dog named Bingo that we had. And yeah, losing my pet dog was devastating. And, you know, it's again, just, you know, looking back now, it's understanding that the grief is there to remind us of how beautiful that connection was, and how beautiful our memories are of that experience of having that kind of connection in our lives, be they with a human person or you know, a family member that's four-legged and furry. I found that rebalancing or regaining my equilibrium happened faster and faster, and that the grieving process is not something that one should fight as much as it is uncomfortable feeling so much. I've learned to not fight it and not resist. And that has been, like, over the accumulation of experiences, that has been the biggest gift, is just being able to let myself feel and to feel the strength in my heart of letting myself feel.
Beautiful. Thank you. The non-resistance and let myself feel.
Yep.
Is what I got. Beautiful. Louise, you want to say something? And I have something to say after on loss, because it's a very deep topic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people might be feeling that right now with the virus, and, you know, like there's that feeling of the way things were and how they are now, and there's that grieving that I think a lot of people are going through, because, and I think the more and more we're seeing that it's not going to end soon, I find that people are just like in that grieving process. And, you know, I can relate to that just by like basically losing my daughter to drugs. You know, took a while to, you know, I had to feel that. I had to allow, because what I was trying to do was step over it and go, okay, you know, and that whole thinking mind going 1,000 miles. And once I stopped and the thinking and I got centered, then I was able to feel that whatever, like we talked a minute ago, is happening for a reason. And her path might, you know, she might have had to come to this world for this reason. I'll never know. There's, you know, I might have needed this in my life, that to get to that bottom, you know, where I got to the point where I didn't want to suffer anymore, and which led me to getting, you know, being where I am now. So I just think that with loss, we have to allow ourselves to grieve, but not let it take over us. You know, once you allow it to happen, you allow it to feel those feelings, and then you let it go. Just let it wash away. And it's okay to feel sad, I think, or to miss someone. That's a human emotion. You know, when the school texted me and said, you know, we need to have all of the parents drive through the school and pop your trunk open, and we'll put the kids' stuff that they left in their desks in the trunk. And then you'll drive around and there's going to be a laundry basket and you put the library books in there. And so I went, and all of a sudden I had so much emotion, because I saw like the teachers, you know, like standing like 6 feet apart, and they were always so filled with like happiness and joy. And every time I saw these teachers, their faces just looked so blank. And, you know, as we drove through, and it just was like this eerie quietness, like no one really was talking. Everybody seemed fearful. And we drove out of the school, and I just started crying, and the kids were like, what's wrong? Why are you crying? And I said, I'm sad. This is a very sad situation. Like, normally I would see Lori, one of the kids' teacher, her name's Lori, and I'd go up to her and we'd be like, hi, and embracing each other and how's everything going? And now it was like, and so I think it's important to allow yourself to feel the sadness, or if you miss someone. Recently my cousin that I grew up with passed away. And every once in a, like throughout this last couple of weeks, I'll have a memory of her, and I just, send her love, or I thank her for the time that we had together, and I let it go. I don't let it consume me and take over my life. And I think that's what happens the more and more and more you go deeper and deeper and practice that in your daily life. It becomes like second nature almost.
Mhm.
And I know even like a few years back when my mom had a brain tumor, and I remember I was so filled with anxiety. I was like, I can't lose my mom. I can't lose my mom. I don't know what I'll do. I'm so used to talking to her every day. And I was so, like in the head. And now, she's having like signs of dementia, and she has high blood pressure and diabetes. And now I feel like I'm not like wanting to hang on to her and wanting it to be about me. Like, I need my mom, I need her to be here, I talk to her every day. Now it's more about letting things unravel the way they're supposed to and accepting that.
Thank you, Louise and Kelly. And sorry about the loss. I think there's feedback on somebody's speaker. Thank you. What I would say is and I think Eckhart already has a video. Like if you on YouTube, you do Eckhart Tolle and pet loss of pet, you'll find one where one person talked very emotionally about losing their pet and actually having to put their pet to sleep, I think, right? And like, this is my best friend, and I had to what kind of a friendship is that you actually make the best friend pass away, right? Kind of thing. And so the one thing that I would say is, no matter whether it is a pet, excuse me, no matter it is this Facebook Q&A, if you look at how we experience life, it's like our eyes watch something, right? We watch an animal, and then consciousness, the presence or our beingness absorbs it, right? So it was not the furry animal that we actually got a connection with, just like Kelly was saying about his friend, right? The connection is more presence to presence.
Mhm.
It's consciousness to consciousness. The consciousness of the dog was
Mhm.
always connected to us. So anytime you bring up the memory of the dog, you will experience it. So
Yep.
go into the depths of your presence and feel the presence. My mom was a dog lover, so I've grown up with dogs. And when I moved to the US, my dog passed away, like pined away for me, my mom said. Within a few months of my moving to US, she passed away in India. So they are that connected to the one person that so much as an owner, or um, what they would call the mother. So what I would say is, one is that you can always go into the depths of your presence. There is no loss. It's life and life and life and life. Like, we started this conversation with the passing away of a life, and it never passed away. It's eternal, right? All that happened is this form dropped, this coat or jacket that we have on dropped, and it returned back into, like, it almost is like Sadhguru has this way. It's a air bubble, right? You pop the bubble pop. So the outer covering of this form passed, but then the inner core just went back to the one consciousness. So you can always connect back with your dog, but it requires presence. So still yourself. Stillness is needed for all that connection with the grandparents, with your cousin. Be still and you'll connect back. My mom passed away in 2016. The peace that I had when my mom passed away, one was Eckhart's teachings, of course, and the other was she was no longer suffering. She had so many, just like Louise is saying about her mom, right? Do you want a human being to suffer dementia and high blood pressure and arthritis and whatever gazillion out of old age? They have gazillion complications in life, right?
Yep.
Out of your selfishness, do you want the other to suffer?
Right.
Or are you okay with not being selfish and saying, okay, human being, okay, soul, you take your journey. And if you need to pass away, I release you. I love you so much that I'm okay with letting you go. Right? I think Maya Angelou says that. So live with the world of form with a little certain amount of detachment. Doesn't mean you cannot unconditionally love it. Unconditionally love it to that extent that you kind of depend back on your presence, that when that form gets taken away, because right now not only is the fact that your pet is this loss of pet, there's also loss of the physical form. You were holding that pet, you were kissing it, it was coming and licking you, the dog was coming and licking you, probably you were used to sounds, you were used to taking the dog out on a walk, whatever it is, right? So impermanence of form, no, live with this world. What Eckhart says is live with the world of form with a certain amount of detachment, right? Non-judgment, non-attachment, non-resistance are three foundational things that we learn from presence, that it is okay to be detached. It's okay for me to enjoy this whole thing, or it's okay for me to enjoy this watch, whatever he enjoys, right? He loves expensive watches. So he says, it's okay for me to, but if the watch is gone, I'm okay. It's not like he has an identification to the, so look at that identity. Not only is the physical form gone, your identification of being the mother of that pet is gone as well, right? The owner or the mother. So
Yep.
at the metaphysical level too, there's an identity form, thought form that's removed. So you're grieving the loss, experience the loss, like Louise and Kelly have said. And then presence is the key. There are a few questions or comments. Let's read them. Rajni says, I'm listening to you guys. I find it very difficult to sit in meditation. My mind is too active, but I would love to sit. How? What can make me sit? What can make me sit? So what I would say is one of the things that Eckhart talks about, I think it's in chapter 8 or 9 of A New Earth. He talks about the outgoing movement, then the inward movement, right? And in India, there is a tradition, there used to be a tradition thousands of years ago, I don't know, like 500-600 years ago, that when a person got to old age, they would just take themselves into the forest. It was time for them
Yep.
to, and somebody told me, somebody on Facebook said in Alaska or something, that's the tradition of the local native people,
Yeah,
that
the dead Inuit still do that.
they take themselves out into the cold, right?
Yep.
Into the wilderness. So it's time, like if we are of a certain age, it is time for us to make that decision that we have to go into the inward movement, which is you know, for Louise, it ended up being her daughter teaching her that lesson, right? That the journey
Mhm.
is inward. We have to make, now that we've come across a spiritual teaching, I actually am amazed how many young people actually come across Eckhart. Now that you've come across Eckhart's teachings, learn that that is your inward movement, right? And then go seek it. Slow yourself down day by day. Learn that life is about slowing down, that there's a conditioned pattern on this planet to go at high speed, right? To fill up every moment. Let me do something or the other. The low quality doing that Eckhart talks about. Uh, I remember going at high speeds, Louise, just like you, like the mind going as well as the hands going, right? I'm cooking and then I'm doing the dishes and I'm loading the dish, going and loading laundry and vacuuming at the same time. Like 50 things are, oh, well, there's a checklist going through my head. Oh, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this. So slow yourself down. That's the initial step. The more you slow yourself down, the more you, what do you all have to say for somebody that make the choice to slow yourself down? I think is the
Yeah.
initial choice.
And I think,
Thank you.
do little things throughout your day, like start introducing it, like every day, like, if you're sitting in traffic, if, when I'm like in the shower and I'm washing my hair, I'm just washing my hair. I'm not thinking about what I got to do when I get out of the shower. I'm not thinking about what happened yesterday. It's everything that I do. Well, not everything, but when I try to be present in everything that I do. Like if I'm talking to the kids, I don't have my phone and I'm not texting and going, what, like I will put everything away and I look at them and I talk to them. And all of that just brings gaps and space. And you start learning how to live in the daily world with giving yourself those minutes of space so that you're not acting unconsciously throughout the day. So I think it's something to think about, that it's not like you just meditate once in the day and then you're good. It's something that you do throughout the day that really makes the big changes in your
Perfect.
exterior.
Perfectly said.
So
Thank you, Louise.
a little
Go ahead, Kelly.
physical message. Two tricks, or not two tricks, but two methods that I've used when my nervous system is agitated. One of the things that helped me sit initially is actually spending about 5 minutes rubbing my feet. Where before I actually sat in full lotus, I would rub my feet and count to 10 on each toe. And by the end, I would already have about 3 or 4 minutes of sitting and being quiet and feeling my body. And one of the beautiful things about that is that the more you do this, the more you actually wake up your feet, the more sensitive your feet become. And after a certain period, what happens is that your feet become sensitive. So when you're walking, you'll actually notice them more, which will actually pull you out of your head and connect you to your lower half of your body and your feet. Personal experience, that's what happened for me.
Beautiful.
It's one of the things that worked, and it also feels good too. I mean, I'm thinking about it going, okay, here, yeah, no one can see my feet. I'll just start right now. There we go.
Awesome. Thank you. And Christina says, how beautiful, full of contagious smiles. Hello, Christina. Thank you.
Hi, Christina.
Life is an adventure, not an organized trip. I think it's translation. So life is an adventure. Roberto says the same thing. How do I meditate, remain aware, awake while I go about my daily business?
The foot thing, honestly, rubbing the feet. I happened to stumble across it because I was also learning meditation, when I wanted to study reflexology. I'm going, what is this stuff? And so I, learned how to massage my own feet. And I noticed like sometimes 20 minutes would pass and I'd be like, okay, I guess I should like meditate now because I have no idea where those 20 minutes went.
This feels good. I think so. The general topic today has been on the seeking mode, right? Of not being able to hold still.
Yep.
And if you've come across this teaching, then this is your sign, right? Here's your sign. Like that comedian says, here's your sign, right? What is his name? Bill Inmal. He says, here's your sign. So here's your sign. If you come to this group, and I'm amazed that people come to the group, and the one thing that you have to pick up is slow down. Look at Eckhart. Watch Eckhart how he moves. Like I was telling Eileen and Louise and Kelly right before this session started that on Monday they were trying to get him to go to gallery view, and he's like, I'm moving the mouse. I'm moving the mouse. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. And that happened for like a good 2-3 minutes of I'm getting there. I'm getting. He didn't know how to move to gallery view on Zoom. So Eckhart is incredibly amazing. So the seeking mode and the refusal to say, the refusal of the mind saying, I'm not awakened. I'm not awakened. You are already awakened, right? You are already in the here and now. You're just not aware that you are not awakened. So it's more, and that's why the word self-awareness, it's self-awareness or self-realization is another word for awareness or enlightenment, right? Why is it self-awareness or self-realization? You realize your own self. Like Kelly was saying that you realize your own body energy of your body by just rubbing your feet, like getting connected with your body. And it takes a few minutes.
Yep.
Few minutes of stopping, just look at a tree, and that is a conscious breath. You were awakened, or you had an awakening experience in that moment. If you looked at the sun and said, beautiful sun, you were awakened in that moment, right?
My 8-year-old daughter said to me this morning during meditation, she said, during our morning meditation this morning, she said, well, how come that meditation went by really fast? She said, because when we used to do them before school, they would take forever. And I said, well, because before school, you were always resisting the meditation. She just wanted it to be over. I said, but this morning you accepted it, you embraced it, and it was over before you knew it.
Awesome.
It's funny, even a child. And we talked about how that beginning when we used to meditate before school, that it would be very like monkey. We'd be like all over the place and be like, I'll never figure this out. I'll never be able to do this. I can't do it. And then now, like, it doesn't happen. And it only changed because I allowed myself to let the monkey mind come and go. But as much as I fought it and was like, I'll never be able to meditate because I can't get it to shut off, I couldn't get it to shut it off. But as soon as I was like, all right, fine, just be there, and then it stopped.
Yep. Yep.
And what I feel is once you make that choice, you also rearrange your life. Louise and I wake up around 4:30 in the morning. I start my work at 7, but I wake up at 4. One, I work through the Facebook posts. And then two, my meditation is the most important thing that I'm going to do. I made the decision that no, I won't move all my meditation to the evening. Like Luis says, I'll do a little in the morning, little in the afternoon, and do some in the evening. So that is my most important thing that I do. So you will prioritize your life differently. Rajni and Roberta, give importance to your meditation. Give importance to you being quiet. Even if you don't sit in meditation, just go sit outside on your patio and feel the morning dew. Wake up at 5 a.m. Or if your life starts at 6 a.m. in the morning, wake up an hour earlier, right? Go sit in your patio with a cup of tea, cup of coffee, whatever you drink, and just feel the air, feel the sky, feel the breeze, right? That is a meditation in itself. So change your life, change how. I'm sure Kelly, for you as well, right? Your life, ever since you took this up, you've changed it,
Oh,
right? No
absolutely.
longer, you say you were a policy analyst or something, right? So
Yep.
that may have been
Years.
a lot of go do things.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I feel so lucky to have started so young, long before I ever ended up in an office, spending 8, 9 hours looking at emails, dealing with phone calls, running errands. I very early on realized that everything was an opportunity to go inside and to listen and to distance myself from anything fear-based, judgmental wise, any uh, aggressive behavior my mind wanted me to participate in. And yeah, I used to, I started by giving myself an extra hour before my day started to meditate. When I first started meditating when I was a teenager, that's what I did before school. And yeah, made all the difference. And I mean, it took a while. I mean, especially as a teenager, brain busting, going through hormonal changes as a teenager and everything like that, and dealing with school. Who wants to deal with school when you're a teenager? You know. But it made all the difference. I mean, especially because I had a mold infection. I had candida when I was a teenager. So grade 12 was absolutely awful for me. And the meditation and being able to do the Qigong is what made all the difference. It took a while, but that's the thing. It's an evolution. It's a process. You have to give yourself time.
It's a decision that you have to make. There are no more questions, right, Eileen? So we are almost close to wrapping up. The one thing I would say, Kelly, I heard you say that you went paycheck to paycheck to paycheck for a long time, right?
Yep.
So since we started, and I'm going to wrap how we started, is the universe is always working in our favor.
Mm-hmm.
If the universe were to bring you abundance as a policy analyst, right, which you were never meant to do in your life, and would have brought you abundance and not kept you paycheck to paycheck,
Yep.
you wouldn't be here trying to now be a Qigong teacher and be a success at it, which is more meaningful on this planet, right? So I want everyone to know that when you see, you may like at a societal level, just even with Eckhart, right, from age 28 till age 49, everybody called him a loser, right? Because he didn't have any success. He was sitting on park benches, homeless, or however, doing menial jobs, right? Everybody called him a loser. His mom, in fact, called him a loser. His mom said that he was that he says, right, like all my buddies were driving BMWs, and here I am on the cycling around London, the whole city of London, cycling, right? And I love my bicycle. I look out my window and I see my bicycle and I love it. So I would say, everyone, if you think that the society is telling you that money, all that is a success, that's not a success. I can say with the trust of $100 million that what Kelly and Louise are doing at this moment is much more important than whatever you did previously in your life. Eileen as well, right? This very moment.
Absolutely,
I
yes.
completely agree. Yep.
Yes,
I totally feel that in my heart.
me
Absolutely.
too.
Let's end at that beautiful note, right? See you all next week.
Yes.
Bye, Eileen.
Bye,
Thank you so
guys.
much.
Bye, it was great. Thank you guys.
Ladies.
Have a wonderful evening.
Have a
Much love.
wonderful
Many
evening.
blessings. Bye.
Bye.